This week on Rockstar Superhero. I love people with killer energy, man. It makes a conversation fun and somewhat breathless, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Today I interviewed Gabe Mangold, the guitarist for the ridiculously heavy metal band Enterprise Earth. Gabe spends his life recording, producing, songwriting, and really living a nomadic existence on the fringes of deserts all across America. When Gabe isn't in the middle of nowhere, he's on tour with his bandmates. Enterprise Earth has a new album, The Chosen, and it's dropping on January 14th of 2022, just in about a month, and it's amazing. I've heard it, and you will fall to your knees when you get your chance because it's that good. The band heads out on tour around the same time, so make sure you get your tickets because I got mine today. This is my conversation with a truly inspiring and talented young man whose life I envy in a way I cannot possibly exaggerate. This is Gabe Mangold of Enterprise Earth on Rockstar Superhero. How do you juggle band life with the vagabond life, so to speak?
Well, I guess it's not so much juggling because those two lives are very much intertwined. So, because my home is my workplace at the same time as my studio is right behind me, right here. So it's everything just kind of works together in tandem. So yeah, I take my work and my life with me wherever I go in my little home right here. So
yeah, it's incredible. I am admittedly really envious of that lifestyle. I chose to have, a family and do all those things and settle down and never really step across that threshold into the potential. Mm-hmm. But I honor what you're doing because it's so extraordinary and it's so cool. And I'm so jealous. So I have to ask, are you from the Spokane area yourself as well?
No, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Okay. And no one in the band is from Washington anymore. Actually, BJ, BJ, the original, the BJ and Dan were the founding members. BJ, right, the original guitarist, is from Spokane, still lives in Spokane. But yeah, we all live in different parts of the country. It's California. I'm nomad. Dan lives in North Carolina, so we're all spread out right now.
Wow. Okay. So I thought so both BJ and Dan were from Spokane. So I felt now I feel like an idiot. Oh god.
No, people say we got to be from somewhere. So it was originally Spokane, but it's like we're not from anywhere anymore. Now we just say we're from, we're a USA band, America band, whatever,
Well, but that's got to be actually the reason you sound the way you sound, because you have all these disparate influences, and I'm sure they come from all walks of life. But one of the things when I first heard the band, and I hate this question, but I have to ask because fans want to know, is the influence question. Sure. Where were you developed from? Because when I listen to what you guys do, and don't get me wrong, you do it at a very, very high elevated level, but I hear hints of Threat Signal in your band. Are you familiar with Canada's Threat Signal?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about, where do you come from as music? What started your motor?
Yeah, it's been all over the place. It started with like classic rock and blues, like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Van Halen, two of my favorite guitarists of all time. Yeah. Still massive influences on me. And then it delved into, the 80s era Metallica and Pantera. And it's old school death metal and thrash. That's kind of where I started, and then now I enjoy just about everything now. And all of us, we all like a lot of old school stuff. And with this new record, you'll hear a lot of those old school influences start to come out as well, mixed with modern, down-tuned, heavy stuff as well.
Yeah.
So we're definitely all over the place with what we like.
Yeah. Well, your PR company, sent me the album, and it's monstrous. Like, I mean,
Thank you.
I haven't
Thank
just
you.
heard the single, I've heard the whole thing.
Sick. Cool.
And I was talking about it all day yesterday. I went and saw Hoarder last night in Seattle.
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, and met up with Kyle, and I was like, dude, I'm talking to Enterprise Earth tomorrow. And he's like, I've heard about them. He's got that cool voice. I've heard about them, man. But what I love about you guys, yeah, it is old school. That record has that flavor of the past, so to speak. You can feel an almost 80s vibe, and not in the tones, but in the style. But the tones are now. You know what I mean? And what I really wanted to talk about today, I mean, we'll get to the album, but I actually wanted to talk about you because you're deeply fascinating to me as a musician and as a producer. And, I like to talk to artists about the depths that they'll go in that recording process, the development of the material and how it's, as a musician, certainly as an artist, there's catharsis in it. But I imagine putting an album like this together causes a tremendous amount of heartache too, because songwriting and development is like birthing a child,
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, share your thoughts on this. Well, how taxing was the development process? And again, because I know you were the producer on the record, that's a Herculean task. Tell me about the whole thing and how much pain you went through.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was, a lot of work. It was, honestly, I mean, a really natural writing, recording process for us too. It all came together pretty fluently, more fluid than anything we've done in the past. But yeah, it was also a shit ton of work. It was more work than we've put into anything too. And I spent a lot of time combing over every single beat of every song, making sure everything was there. I spent a lot of time mixing and working on this as well. But yeah, it was a lot of work. But honestly, most of it didn't feel like work every day because I was just having such a good time doing it. But at the end of it, I felt like I had just given birth to like 10 kids. So it was it was a lot. Not that I know what childbirth feels like, but mentally, that's what it felt like.
Right, it's like a really big. It's like a really big poop.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I'm curious though. So nowadays, there's two things that are tradition in modern music. There's the single thing, meaning like people aren't putting out albums anymore. They're releasing single, and then they quote unquote release an album like a compilation. So I think it's tremendously ballsy that you guys are doing this. But two, in the recording process, everybody is doing tone replacement, right? Note replacement. Everything's super quantized, and that's not a knock. It's what makes the thing sound so immense and strong and bottom endy. You know what I mean? It's just it has all that punch to it. But I'm curious, with all that's going on sonically on the record, and listeners will hear this soon, how much of it is actual guitar tone versus created sounds or reamping?
I mean, it's a mix of both. I mean, everything always starts with the performance, right? When it comes to recording, it's rule number one, which I learned from Jason Sukoff when we did Luciferus with him, and I learned a lot from Sukoff. But it's rule number one is always get the best performance, get the best source tone possible. Everything starts at the source, which is your hands and your feet and your mouth and whatever you're using to play the instrument. So it's all about getting the tightest performance possible. And then there's editing and stuff that all goes into that as well. But you can't polish a turd, so you got to start with good tone and good recording. So then it starts with a good performance, and then good tone, and then it comes into mixing, EQing, compression, whatever, all that stuff. Everything starts at the source, though. If you have a shit performance, and then it's not going to be good.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm curious. Does that mean you got to get big levels, or can you get like, you know what I mean? Like dynamics nowadays, that record is really dynamic, and actually, this is where it comes from. I didn't know if it was you just dialing out levels, like pulling them down when you're in the mix, or if it was actually like lighter moments being performed softer on the instrument. Because I would imagine if you're reamping and you're doing tone replacement for drums, that those hits have to be gargantuan. Everything has to be big.
Yeah, and so I mean, starting with like again, it starts with the performance. So like, if we have to go in and punch in this one note just to make sure that one note's right, we'll do it.
Oh, gotcha.
And then, but I mean, yeah, and there's also what you mentioned. It's like the flow of songwriting as well. That the song itself ebbs and flows. The dynamics of the performance will vary too, depending on what part's going on. And then as far as like tone replacement, all that stuff. I mean, Brandon's drum performance, that's actually pretty much all him. It's all pretty much. It's all organic drums. Like, I mean, obviously there's a kick trigger, and like we took samples of his kit, but it's seriously like 95% just him, because that's how good of a drummer he is, you know?
Well, yeah, and see, yeah. I'm a drummer.
Okay,
and I was a professional studio drummer, and I listened to that, and that's actually one of the reasons, because I was listening to the kick, and I was listening.
You can tell. You can tell it's not sample replaced. That's a real performance, you know.
Yes.
So yeah,
and it freaks me out. I mean, I had to ask about that, because it's like that's almost like one of those soldier soul to the devil moments, because it's so stellar. It's so next level. It's really unfair. And it goes to show you that bands can be monstrous, but the secret sauce, I mean, I have to say it, the secret sauce is always a killer drummer, man. It's drummer.
It's the foundation. The drums and bass are the foundation of any mix. Like, and that's because the drums generally kind of take up the most space. Yeah. I feel like in a mix, and that's why people always start mixing with drums. I always start my mix with drums, but it's like, if you have a shit drum performance, it's really, really noticeable, where if you have like shitty guitars, well, you can add some more distortion. You might be able to finesse it here and there. Yeah. But if you got a drummer that hits a snare like a bitch, like you're not gonna be able to use that. So
the washy cymbal thing, like the guys that strike the side of the cymbal, they don't hit it square. I'm like, dude, you're killing me.
That's actually the worst, because like a snare hit, it's a sharper transient, and you can replace that easily, But like if someone's not consistent with their cymbal hits, that's the worst, because it just sucks, because you can't do anything with it. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, look, I'm a coach. I mean, like a life coach, and what I love about you is your super hyper positive energy. Like, this is something I noticed. Yeah, exactly. For people who are listening to this, he gave us the big Jim Carrey smile just now. But you cannot be a dour. I mean, it just doesn't go anywhere if you hate your life. You know what I mean? You can put it into your music, you can put it in your words or whatever. But Jesus, man, if you cannot be a relatively likable human being, life and music business in general is going to be extraordinarily tough. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, when I say that, what do you consider your personal strengths? Like, when did you know this was the direction of your life and really what you wanted to do?
I don't know if it's so much a knowing thing as it's just me kind of just going with the flow of where life was directing me,
Gotcha.
Long story short, I had like a lot of crazy things happen to me like 5-6 years ago. I don't know what the fuck was going on. My whole life fell apart. And then, but then you just kind of you have to be open to where life is directing you. It's like, you're on a river and you just gotta let it take you. You can paddle, but if you try to fight it, you're gonna run out of energy real quick.
Yeah.
So I like to use the old Bruce Lee quote, "Be like water," and just kind of go with it like that. So, but 5 years ago, I moved back to Pittsburgh and I got the Enterprise offer to go tour with them. And then as soon as that happened, it was just, all right, this is what I'm doing now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So how did that happen? I mean, you can't tease us with that, because that was going to be one of my questions. How did you end up in Enterprise? Because, they were kind of killing it before you. I mean, obviously the stuff that happens, and we're not going to talk about like, interband dynamics and all that stuff, because that's all personal. But how come you got the call?
So Dan and BJ and I have been friends online prior to that for several years. Dan did guest vocals on one of my old bands, Delusions of Grandeur. He did guest vocals on a song. Okay. And that's just how we just chatted online, me and BJ every now and then. And then I saw that Joel, the old guitarist, had quit, and I hit up BJ and I was like, hey, I saw Joel quit. If you need a guy, let me know. I'm available. And they ended up going with this other guy because they had talked to him prior to me. And I was like, oh, that's fine. Understandable. But then it turns out the kid showed up to practice for the tour and like didn't know any of the songs and like couldn't play any of the shit.
How's that possible?
I don't know. Some idiot. I don't know. But it's and it was like on it was on a Chelsea Grin tour, so it was the largest tour the band had done too. And this kid just came in and botched it. So BJ calls me and he was like, "Hey, this kid's blowing it. Can you be ready in like a week? And we'll pick you up in Pittsburgh because they're playing in Pittsburgh in like a week or 2 weeks. However, it wasn't a lot of time." Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll get on learning the songs." I learned the songs in a week or two. They, picked me up in Pittsburgh. We jammed, and now I'm here.
Wow. So note to the audience listening. So this happened to me as well. We had a development deal with Epic back in 2000. Oh, okay. And yeah, it was a big deal, right? We're working with Rick Parasher and Jonathan Plum, and he did, Pearl Jam. So I mean, we're on the path. And then we had a moment where there was talk about replacing a musician in the band. And so we flew that person up, and they were completely unprepared. And they actually had brought their own material as though they were going to be the lead of the band and we were going to be the support of the band. And I remember just going like, who the fuck does this? Like what is wrong with your brain that you think, you know what I mean? Like, you've been told you're coming up to, test drive a spot in the band, and you're going to do this, and that person, who shall remain nameless, went on and did nothing. You know what I mean? But could have been, and we could have been, and not that I want to be the next, huge pop band, but we were in line to be one of those. I don't know what's the crappy band that everybody hates from Vancouver.
From Vancouver, a pop band,
the hard rock band. Oh my God,
Nickelback. Are they from Vancouver?
Nickelback.
Yeah. I knew they're from Canada. I didn't know they were from Vancouver. But okay,
yeah. So Rick. Sorry to the legacy of Rick Parasher, but you know what I mean. That was his sound, and honestly, we sounded very similar to that. So that's what he was shopping the labels at the time. But I just don't understand that kind of. It's not even a work ethic. It's an expectation, and we live in a world nowadays where people just expect to be something because somebody heard them somewhere. Nobody does the freaking work. And your proof, and this is where I wanted to take this whole point, your proof that you have to be ready for the moment, and then you have to crush the moment. You have to show up to be better than anything that band has ever heard, right? Because you're the one who actually took it to the next level. No offense to the guy that preceded you, but Enterprise Earth became what they are, what you guys are now, because you got injected in, Gabe. It had to happen. So, kudos to you, dude. You crush. I love guitars. Thanks, and you're a monster player. So
thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. So I have a question for you now. I'll stop talking, but I got a question. This is what I do, bro. To me, what sets Enterprise Earth apart from similar music in the genre is really twofold. One, there's a sheen to the music in that the production is stellar. I mean, dude, you really are top notch. No smoke. It's Thanks. Really, really something. Second, the performances are tight. I've said this a million times already today, but they're tight. And there's obviously a complexity, but the music is groove centric somehow, which is not typical of the genre, at least to me. I mean, the stuff I listen to a lot of deathcore, grindcore, and nobody's doing it like you, which seems at times to include metalcore. And I know metalcore is almost like a dirty word anymore. Ooh, it's heavy in the verse and sing-songy and melodic in the chorus. Which, who cares? I think it's awesome.
It's sick. There's a reason why so many people do it, because it's sick.
It is. Right? So if you have to define what's unique about Enterprise Earth, what is it? Why are you so different?
I'm not sure. But it's honestly, it's just we at this point, like in our lives, in our careers, it's started as a pretty much straightforward, like deathcore, brutal band. Yeah. And then I joined a couple years ago, and naturally the songwriting changes with a new songwriter.
Yeah.
So my influences came in on Luciferous, and now like with this record, we're just like, man, like we don't really care like what we're supposed to sound like or what thinks. Like we just want to write fun songs, you know, that feel right, for this project. If it feels like it fits under the Enterprise Earth name, let's do it. We don't care about singing, we don't care about anything. It's like we just want to have fun writing songs, making music, living our lives, and that's all we did. So it's like, you know, what was your question again? Like what defines us or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, well, no, because look, we live in a world nowadays where there's way too much content. There's too much shit on YouTube. There's too many bands everywhere. You can hire the best management and the best PR in the world, and you're still probably gonna fall between the cracks. Nobody pays attention anymore. And yet you guys have hundreds of thousands of followers and listeners. You guys are actually doing the thing people strive. That requires uniqueness. That doesn't require anything obvious. You guys have to have something unique. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I know when I hear it, it sounds like you. It doesn't. There's hints of everything. So what is unique about you? Why are you so different? How are you so different?
Well, thank you for that too, because that's I feel like that's usually a good sign with a band is when you can't pinpoint like, oh, they sound like this or they sound like that. Oh, it's like, Deftones sounds like Deftones, you know, or like, you know, this Pantera sounds like Pantera. And that's cool, I guess, that we're kind of getting to that point. But I guess as far as what makes us unique in since you listened to the record, you know, every song in this record has its own little vibe, you know.
Totally.
It's not like, you know, track 1 sounds like track 7 through 10 or anything. It's like they've all got their own little thing. So I think what makes us unique is that we have all these influences, and we don't try to just stick to one lane or 2 lanes or even 3 lanes. We're just like, we're driving all over the whole goddamn highway, because that's the stuff we like to do, you know. And we'll sing and end a song, go to a heavy breakdown, and then, you know, do old school thrash. It's just I guess I mean sometimes it's bad for a band's branding to be all over the place, because it's like, you know, people expect a certain sound out of a band, which is totally fine. You know, some bands have their sound nailed down, you know, and it's they might churn out the same kind of album several albums in a row, and that's totally cool. You know, that's totally fine. But I feel like what makes us unique, and again, that's good for branding, because you know what to expect from that band. But I feel like what's making us unique now is like we're just kind of like all over the place. So which is maybe bad for branding, because it's like, oh yeah, they're a heavy band. Oh, but no, wait, Dan's singing right now, so they're not heavy. But it's
but I gotta interrupt you. But the thing is like when Dan is singing, so like on the first track on the album, Where Dreams Are Broken, right? And that's the first single, so to speak, right? I mean, there is such a high tenor, high pitched, right? His singing is so unbelievably next level. Like I was I'm not sending the track, but I was sending like links of the video to a ton of my friends in Europe yesterday. I was like, dude, you gotta listen to this. Like, I mean, I you know, I got the thing, but you gotta listen to this. You gotta listen to this. And every one of them was like, holy hell, how does he do that? It's kind of like the guys that can kettle scream, right? There's just things that people can do that come out of the box. And again, this isn't really a question, it's more of a comment, but I think, you know, you guys have just such unique talent. I mean, as a drummer, I sit in the back, right? I mean, I'm not obviously not in your band, but I mean, if I were the drummer in your band, I'm literally sitting behind a wall of sound of these other musicians that are all extraordinary players, all exceptional at their craft. And I think just that, those tones and the way you create them and the way the vibes roll, it is all over the map, but it is badass all over the map. It's not that sense of, oh, I can't, there's no groove. There's constant groove. And I think what saves it is you guys have smartly written and produced a record that has a pulse the entire time. It has a pulse and you can feel it. So if the stuff shifts and drops, it's not like it goes from 180 to 104 in BPM. I mean, it might, but it's not like that's a constant, right? And I think that's what it is. The record bounces.
Cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm just like blah 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 blah.
But it's all good.
But it's holy shit stuff to me. So let me say this then. the album's called The Chosen, right? I'm right on that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct. Yeah.
Comes out January 14th next year, so we're talking a little less than a month. You're playing in Seattle the next day. I'm gonna be there, so looking forward to seeing you. What's this run up like? You guys are sort of heralded lately as the second coming, especially of the genre. And I mean, I actually hate the term death metal because you guys are so many other things. But that's where you get categorized. What's it like being in this place now where people are really wanting to talk to you and the questions are flowing, especially after the sort of the breakthrough on Luciferus?
It's really cool. I mean, it's just like, it's like having anything that you put a lot of love and care to in your life, just to see it grow and blossom. And, it's great. It's a wonderful feeling. And, I'm happy that people are liking it. People can categorize us however they want to. Does not matter to me as long as I like the music. I don't give a shit. But it's really cool to see the band growing, and hopefully with this record that continues.
Yeah.
We shall see.
Yeah, you had said that the band is all over the country. How does that work? I mean, I get it. You can send files and whatnot, but there's something to be said about the vibe of being all in one room and creating and rehearsing and all these things. How often do you guys get together?
Really only for a tour or when we're recording. So it's for a tour we'll get together a week before a tour, rehearse and go out and do it. For recording, it's we'll write our parts at home at our respective places. And then, like for this last album, Dan flew out to me. We recorded vocals in Sedona, Arizona, in my rig right here. We're just camping and tracking and having a good time. So Dan came out, and then we did drums with Sukoff in Florida. So we went there and did that. And then I mixed everything here when I was traveling in San Diego, Southern California area. Wow. And so I mean, it's we're all spread out. So we'll do our work at home, and then when it's time to get together, we'll get together and do the thing.
Yeah. So. I would assume too that that's a little easier. Like one of the hardest things about being in a band is you're stuck. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love being in bands. I love playing music with other people. But when you're on a tour for 3 months or 2 months, or I don't care, 2 weeks, there comes a moment where you're like, okay, I kind of had enough of you for a while. And they've had enough of you, by the way, too. So I imagine it's a little easier to, it's more fun to get together because you're not always together, if that makes sense.
Sure. Maybe that has something to do with it. I mean, fortunately, we all have a pretty good dynamic in the band, too, where like the longest we've been together was like 3 months was a long. We were on the road like 100 days straight whenever Lucifer's came out, which was rough. But we, like, not one fight, not one weird moment, anything that tensions or anything like a situation that came up. We're all civil people and can talk it through.
That's cool.
So fortunately, we have a good dynamic amongst ourselves where there's never really been tension like in the van or on a long stretch of touring.
Yeah. So who does the lyrics? Is it Dan?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so he seems like an intense dude. I mean, obviously I've never met him. I don't know anything really about him. But he puts all of his heart and his soul. And I don't think a lot of people actually do that. I think a lot of lyricists think they do, but you can tell that there's real penetrating emotion in this record. The way he sings, the sound of his voice, the way it cracks on certain notes. He's believing the words. That first single, Where Dreams Are Broken, I know it's been out quite a while, but it speaks volumes about the direction. I mean, it's a killer opener because you kind of know what, Enterprise Earth is all about. But it's frightening in its velocity and it's violent in its themes. And I wonder, where does all of that come from? Where do those themes come from? And what do you bring thematically to the songwriting or creating process? Not the melodies, but do you come in and say, I really want to write a song with you about dungeons or about living in a cave, or where does it all come from?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but
Okay.
it kind of like this. The song may start from an idea or like an influence, or I might hear something that I vibe with, and I'll just riff on it, Or I'll have a general idea for like a feel of a song, like Where Dreams Are Broken. Like we wanted to do like a metalcore type chorus, but have it be super intense all around it, and that's the vibe that we wanted to create with that song, and that's what we went for with that.
Yeah.
So, uh, lyrics, Dan pulls from a lot of places. I mean, he's definitely the better person to ask about that than me.
Sure.
But he'll pull everything from his life experiences, his outlooks on the world, all the stuff like that.
Yeah.
And maybe say there's been a couple times when I've been like, hey, like Dan, this song, I feel like you should write about, this topic or something like that, and maybe he'll riff off that too.
Gotcha.
So it's just like with any influences, it's just being open to the creative ether around us, and being open to letting it in, and just trying to just let it be natural versus trying to force something. Sometimes you have to force something. I do feel like creativity can be a muscle. Or it's there was an analogy. I feel like it was like a fishing analogy, I think I heard one time.
Right.
Where it's like songwriting is like going fishing. It's like sometimes, you go to the river, you cast your line in, you got nothing all day. So, and then sometimes you get a bite, but you're not going to get anything if you don't go, know? So it's, so sometimes you just got to show up and do it,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I asked that question because, metal is obviously a ferocious music, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not intended to be light. And
right.
And I don't think I've ever in my life heard a metal band. I mean, a truly hardcore, brutal, whatever you want to call it, band that is writing sort of thematically positive things, right? They tend to be sort of dark or frustrations or questions, the challenged worldview, that sort of thing. I just wondered how much that sort of perspective penetrates the band, and is it hard to be in a band where there's there's a brooding quality to it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's definitely lots of brooding going on with us and with Dan's lyrics, but there's also, he did a really good job of making it uplifting, particularly at the choruses too, which I thought was like Where Dreams Are Broken. It starts off with like, this world fucked me up, all this stuff, but then the chorus is like, I will make it, is basically the chorus.
Right.
It's
almost like a gospel song.
Yeah. So overcome. Yeah, we're gonna overcome. And then like the title track, The Chosen, is all about uplifting. It's all about standing up and fighting for what you believe in, and hanging on and not giving up and all this stuff.
Yeah. I think that's why I agree with you, by the way. I think that's why metalcore works so well, because you go from these dissonant verses to these very, very almost major, right? Minor to major key stuff. The shit.
Yeah, it's open and uplifting. Like the feel of the chorus. So.
Yeah. Okay, so my last professional question for you is how did you snag this upcoming tour with Fit for an Autopsy? I mean, are you guys self-managed? Do you have a team? Do you do it all yourself? How's that happen for you guys?
We have a manager, and that tour came to us through him because he's good friends with Will Putney, and so yeah, we got that offer through that, and yeah, we're super stoked to tour with this guys because we haven't toured with them yet, so it should be a good time.
Yeah, well, as I said before, I will be there. I'm actually buying my tickets today. Cool. So I'll see you in less than 30 days. I'll make sure I come up and shake your hand if you'll have me.
I'll be hanging out. So yeah.
Anything I didn't ask you today that you want to share, like stuff that I might have missed in between the cracks, stuff you want to promote?
No, I mean, just January 14th, new album. That's about it. So that's all I got. Yeah.
Good. Okay. So before I let you go, I have to ask my favorite silly question, which is when you were growing up, what did your parents warn you about? And you said, screw this, I'm going to do it anyway.
Ooh, what did they warn me about?
Like people will say like, don't touch the beehive or don't get in the music business because you know what I mean?
I don't know. What did my dad warn me about? Well, my dad's also a musician, so he didn't warn me about music. He encouraged it.
Wow.
Good
dad.
Yeah, he's a great dad. I can't remember what they warned me about, unless I'm just was too young to remember the warnings.
maybe they were just very free with you, and maybe I'm.
They were, yeah. They were. It was like, I couldn't listen to any music with expletives until it was like 12 or 13, and then I got like a Green Day American Idiot record, and like my dad saw me listen to it, and he was like, "I fuck it, I don't care about that anymore," because it's like, all right, you're exposed to it, but
well, on top of that, it was politics, right? I mean, that American Idiot record actually is a very good reason why they say, be an American idiot, right?
Yeah,
it's the truth.
Yep.
Look, Gabe, I love your energy, man. I love your musical style. You guys are so freaking good. I can't wait for people to see you on tour. So thanks so much for hanging with me today and us figuring out the audio. And dude, you freaking rule. So I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah. I enjoyed our talk.